Okay, so it's currently 3:44 a.m. If you want to know what I'm doing up, it's either because I'm a genius or I'm completely crazy. But I refuse to answer or entertain any of those ideas. But since I'm up, we might as well just talk about the things that I always like talking about, which is dating. And I think this will be dating part 6, I think. So dating part 6, okay. This won't be, I know on the previous episode I talked about the amjaya of standards and preferences. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll try to add a link to the previous video about that. I'm going to be quite Deleuzian here in this episode, so forgive me if you don't enjoy this kind of jargon, but actually I will attempt to not employ it, so I won't be heavy with it. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to be very light. But I was thinking how I recently came across, Deleuze talking about the societies of control. And societies of control are basically societies that control access. And how we kind of developed from a disciplinary society, what you do with your body, it's more body regulated. But now we sort of living in the 21st century and onward, and we're in a society of control, where it's all about controlling access. And this really made me think about how in some that's really kind of true. I was thinking about the credibility of this proposition that Deleuze is talking about, access. And then I was thinking about dating again, and how actually we've completely fetishized access, right? Some of you might be like, well, what do you mean? I can give you a good example of this. There's something that a lot of people like to talk about these days, right? Which is emotional availability, or emotional, I'm going to put my spin on it, emotional access, right? He doesn't express his emotions. He can't say the things that he's trying to say. I don't understand him. We're constantly fighting. Access, right? Access. We want access to each other. There is also, and I think about your phone plan, right? Most of us go straight for the unlimited phone plan, right? Because we just want unlimited access. We don't want to have to pay for anything, right? We're willing to pay for the unlimited, but we don't want to have to pay less for kind of a restricted form. Having less access, right? Meaning less access to the gigabytes of data, right? We want unlimited data. And I think that's so representative of today when we interact with each other. We're obsessed with control. I mean, literally, because we want unlimited access to each other. Unlimited, completely unlimited. And depending on the plan, depending on the person, right? We'll be like, well, that's not the kind of access that I want. That's not the access that I want. That's not the access that I envision. Now, why is access so appealing And why is access so terrifying at the same time? Well, because the moment you access something, we make it our territory. At least that's how we want to perceive it, right? For example, if you've been saying very political right stuff, right? Like political right, meaning the right, so difficult to express it. If you're kind of like a Republican on Facebook, right? Just to give an example, and you're saying a lot of right things, then what's going to happen is, and I mean by far right things. I feel like it gets confusing when I just say right. You're saying a lot of far right things, and then Facebook bans your account, right? They deny you access. You get upset, you get angry, or there's a more subtle form of that denial of access. You get shadow banned, right? You get shadow banned. I think in the form of dating is I just now tied the connections between shadow banned and ghosting, right? It ghosted, right? People shadow ban each other all the time, where it's like you're there, but like you're not really there. Your words don't matter. You've kind of just been shadow banned, right? No one's paying attention to your posts anymore. We do this in dating, right? Ghosting. You're still there on the you're still texting the person, but the responses are gone, right? The attention is gone. You've been shadow banned. You've been denied access. And it's this obsession with access. And whether to penetrate into the access or to deny access, it completely dominates the dating world. Completely dominates it. So why do I always talk about dating? Why do I always talk about why it has to change? Is because dating itself has become a version of control, right? A sort of small society of control. I want dating to break past its own category. Right? I'm going to be very Deleuzian here. I want to deterritorialize dating. Right? I want to decode dating. Completely decode it. Right? Be the weed in the garden. Because I really feel like that's what people need right now. To some extent, right? That's what I need. That's what people need, I think. The thing is, people don't want to think this through. Because we're all very comfortable with the territory. You know, it makes sense why rejection feels so difficult, or feels it's difficult to handle rejection, because actually what that means is that you were denied access to something, which in your eyes was a possibility. A new territory opens up the moment you gain access. But again, like I stressed earlier, we're also afraid of access. Because access, as we assume, becomes a part of our own territory. And I think that right there is where we mess up. Because those are both horrible interpretations, in my opinion. Where it's like the moment I gain access, we assume that it's going to be our territory. Right? I mean, it really filters a lot of the jargon that we hear in the dating world. A lot of the rhetoric, right? And if I were to kind of redo even the standards and preferences, right? Those are the filterings. The filterings of our access. I want a man that's tall. I want a man that's funny. I want him to have a good job. Again, these are all the filters that we use to deny or accept access to each other. It's a complete kind of fetish, right? We treat each other like our phone payment plans, right? Some people have, 10 gigabytes of data to have access to, and some people, we want them to have complete unlimited, right? Just unlimited access. We treat each other with these exchanges of data. I don't want this person to know that much about me. But then I want this person to know everything about me. I want this person to have complete access to me. This person's too annoying. I don't want him to have access to me. So I'm not going to talk to him. Right, it's a fetish. It's a fetish. Because it's the access that we're attracted to so much. I mean, to be honest, I can't even imagine myself overcoming this itself. Like, I can't. Right? Because here's the thing. Here's the paradox that I found myself in, right? In me telling you guys that I want to, deterritorialize dating and decodify dating, right? Again, it's a problem with access. So I can't even escape this idea of access. I can't. Because what I'm trying to say when I'm saying to decode is like I want a new access. Right? I'm not happy with the version of access that is available. Which we can call the dating game, the dating world, whatever you want to call it. And the only solution, right? The sort of delusional, Deleuzian solution. And I'll take my Freudian slip as delusional, right? Shatter this delusion of access is that the access needs to always be becoming. And this is where we become Nietzschean here. Access of becoming. Because I think the problem now, as I'm sort of talking it out, is that it's an access of stagnation, an access of just sterility. And the more that I read Deleuze, I understand why he had such issues with things talking about unity. And why that's a problem. Or wholeness, right? I mean, just think about people and their delusions, right? They talk about, well, don't you believe that there's the one? There's the one, but it's always the concept of their one, this oneness that would grant them, this access of just pure bliss, pure ecstasy, right? Just the one. Or the other notions of love where it's like we're two pieces and finally we're the lost parts that unite. I mean, I know, I'm really taking a jab at these people. And I don't mean to be so abrasive about it. I am a little passionate about it, clearly. But what I'm trying to express is that the concept of wholeness, the concept of oneness, and even of the many, right? Polygamy, is also what infests and it infects our minds and our relationships, right? I want a loyal person, right? That's an access. You don't want them to act. You don't want a person to be able to access many people, or maybe you want access to many people. Again, whatever notion this is, and this is why I'm starting to like Deleuze, because Deleuze, in some sense, you could say, is that this difference needs to always be becoming. It needs to be a creative act. Dating is no longer creative. Therefore, it's no longer interesting. It no longer wants to be interesting. And it no longer wants to be creative. It just wants access. Right? Dating, I could say, is like the gateway of all access, right? Someone will say, well, what do you mean? Well, what do I mean is that the moment you have access to someone, let's take, for example, let's say, this will be an extreme example, but let's put it this way. Let's say I start dating Selena Gomez. Not only would I have access to her, but suddenly I would have access to a million other things I would not be able to imagine, right? Probably her fancy, mansion, and cars, and everything, and, stuff like that. It's not just an access to a person, it's all the access that person is access to. And to give a layman example, right? Because most of us won't date celebrities. To give a more layman example would be, if I get access to a person, then I get access to their belongings, right? Marriage, family, then we have children. If you get divorced, then you have to pay for that access that you previously had, right? Child support. You guys are no longer married, but you still have a child. So you have to pay for that access. Right? Even visiting rights. Again, access. Right? People fight over this all the time. Can I see my kid today? No. Talk to my lawyer. Or if you want a really good idea of how people get upset about access, watch this. Prenups. Why is prenups a difficult conversation to have? Because what that person is saying is, hey, if we do get divorced, you won't be able to take my money. My money is my money, your money is your money. Why does that upset people? Because you've just denied them access the moment that you get married. And then that denial of access for a lot of people is a bad sign. Right? It means that you're already thinking about something ending. About something not working out. right? We get upset over access. Forget my password. Gotta do a new password. I'm upset. Makes me waste my time. Brings up another notion that I previously talked about, right? Wasting time. Again, access. This emotional availability, right? I don't want to give you access to me and then realize it means nothing. Access, access, access. Access, the very thing that gets in the way, and the only thing also, it's the thing that gets in the way, and it's also the only thing that I can think of that allows us to have any conversation. Right? Even silence is a denial of access. So how can I relate to you? Right? I can't escape this notion of access. But it's, again, my proposal of this access always becoming. I think it has to be a part of the formula for decodifying, deterritorializing, can't even say that word. I read it all the time. Can't say it. My own tongue is denying me access. Making it always becoming. The inescapability of access. But it doesn't have to be stagnant. It doesn't have to be sterile. We can always create new access and make that access always become. And that's, if I were to take anything out of Deleuze, it would be that. Make it productive instead of focusing on the lack, right? The lack of access. The access that we want and we don't want. Again, it's all counter in flux with lack. We're rather producing access, producing new access, and continuously producing new access. I think this is something that we should think about. All right, guys, take care.